so thank you very much once again for following me, for subscribing to my YouTube channel. Please, if you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe. I'm your teacher, Mr. Chilomba. So most of the times I teach sciences, that is physics, chemistry, and biology. Now, for today, we are in a chemistry class. So today I want us to revise this question which is on the board. Okay? So this question is coming from paper 2. Okay? Paper 2, 2020 B4, which is chemistry. Now, it is written as science paper 2. Okay? So it is science paper 2, which is in the year of 2020, question B4. Okay? So this question that we are revising is the question that came in one of the previous papers, which is 2020. Okay? So what does the question say? So the question says urea, which has been shown here as a compound. So this is urea. So urea and ammonium nitrate, which is there. So urea and ammonium nitrate are two nitrogenous fertilizers commonly used by farmers. So the statement here in the question, they are saying farmers mostly use these two types of fertilizers as the nitrogenous fertilizers. And these fertilizers will put urea and the ammonium nitrate. Okay? So now the question is, calculate the percentage composition of nitrogen in urea. Okay? So we are finding the percentage composition of nitrogen, which is an element in a compound which is urea. Okay? So nitrogen is contained in this compound which is urea. Okay? It is there. So now they want us to find the percentage of this element in this fertilizer. In this fertilizer urea, what is the percentage of nitrogen? That is the question. Okay? So now, for us to find our percentage composition of this element, what you need to know is that for you to find the percentage composition, you need to have mass of an element divided by the mass of a compound multiplied by 100%. That is how we are going to go about this question. Okay? So we are going to find the mass of an element, in this case nitrogen. We are going to find the mass of nitrogen divided by the mass of this whole compound, then multiplied by 100%. We get the percentage composition of nitrogen. Okay? So we are going to find the mass of this whole compound which is here, which is the urea. Okay? So urea is like this. So this is our urea. Now let's find the mass of this compound which is urea. Okay? So we are going to do like this. Okay? So we are going to do like that. Now we find the number of atoms in this compound which is urea. So we start with hydrogen. How many atoms of hydrogen are here? So hydrogen already has got 2. Now because outside the brackets there is also that 2. This 2 accounts for all the elements in this bracket. This 2 represents all the elements which is here. Now this one is for hydrogen, you know. So we are going to say 2 multiplied by 2, that is the 4. Multiplied by the relative atomic mass of hydrogen is what? It is 1. Okay? What are we going to get when we multiply 4 multiplied by 1? What are we going to get? It is the 4. Okay? We come here for nitrogen. How many atoms of nitrogen do we have in this compound? Because of that 2 which is outside the bracket. Remember I said this 2 represents all the elements in this bracket. So 1 multiplied by 2, we are going to have 2. Multiplied by the relative atomic mass of nitrogen, which is the 14. So when you multiply, what are you getting? It is the 28. Okay? Apart from this, we also have oxygen. How many atoms of oxygen do we have? It is just the 1. Multiplied by the relative atomic mass, which is the 16. When you multiply here, you are going to get 16. Okay? The last element is the carbon. How many atoms of carbon do we have? We have 1. The atomic mass of carbon, which is the 12. When you multiply, you are going to get 12. Okay? So let's add now these numbers that are here. The number that we are going to get, the answer that we are going to get is the mass of this compound. Okay? So when you add 4 mass of a compound multiplied by 100%. Okay? That is how you are going to get the percentage composition. So what is the mass of this element, which is nitrogen? Because we are finding the percentage composition of nitrogen. So what is the mass of this element, which is nitrogen? It has got a mass of 28. Okay? So its mass is 28. And the mass of this compound in which nitrogen is in, it has got the mass of what? Of 60. Okay? 60 multiplied by 100%. Okay? So when you divide 28 by 60 multiplied by 100%, what are you getting? You are supposed to get 46.666667. Okay? So our answer is 46.7%. That is our answer. So this means that nitrogen in this compound or in this fertilizer, which is urea, nitrogen alone occupies the percentage of 46.7%. Then the rest percentage is shared among the elements. Is shared among the elements that are in this compound. Okay? So that is how we can find our percentage composition. Thank you. Let's go to question B. If you've just joined, please can you hit the subscribe button there so that we move together. So let's move to question B. B says, explain the importance of nitrogenous fertilizers in agriculture. Okay? Explain the importance of nitrogenous fertilizers in agriculture. So what role does this type of fertilizer play? What is the function? Okay? That is what we mean when we say the importance. So what is the importance of this type of fertilizer in agriculture? Okay? Remember, we are supposed to mark this way, nitrogenous. For them to say nitrogenous, meaning it produces an element which is the nitrogen. So, how important is this element? So, the importance of nitrogenous fertilizers is that they produce nitrogen, which is responsible or which is key in the protein synthesis of all plants. So, this nitrogen or nitrogenous fertilizers, they produce nitrogen as an element which is capable of producing or of developing into proteins in the plants, or it is capable in building up, it is capable of building up proteins of a plant. Now in this case, we are going to say the importance, okay, so the importance of nitrogenous fertilizers is that so that is what you can write there when you are explaining the importance of nitrogenous fertilizer. So you can just say it produces nitrogen which helps in protein synthesis. So the importance of nitrogenous fertilizers is that they produce nitrogen which helps in protein synthesis. Okay? So they produce nitrogen which is responsible or which helps in the protein synthesis, in making proteins of the plants. It is this type of an element which is responsible. Thank you. Let's go to C. C says, describe the effects of using nitrogenous fertilizers in the environment. Okay? So in this environment, what can be the harmful effects? What can be the dangers of using these type of fertilizers? These type of fertilizers which are nitrogenous fertilizers. What are the effects? Okay? So one, this type of fertilizer, when you overuse this type of fertilizer, if you use it very much, it makes the soil to become too acidic. So the soil becomes too acidic, which cannot which can enable it to support the crops. Okay? So when you use, overusing of nitrogenous fertilizers, we just said overusing of nitrogenous fertilizers makes the soil to become too acidic, which makes it not to support the crops. Okay? So that is one of the effects. So you say overuse Okay, so that is one of the effects of nitrogenous fertilizers. So, overuse of nitrogenous fertilizers makes the soil to become too acidic, okay, making it unable to support crops. Because when the pH of the soil is lowered, and when the pH is very low, that means the soil becomes too acidic for the crops to survive. Okay? So what is the other effect? Can you give here? What is the other effect? Okay, so it also causes eutrophication. So a situation which happens when the nitrogenous fertilizers run off into water bodies. So when they go, or when they are washed away by rains and they run into water bodies, that is streams or rivers. That means they will pollute the what? The air. Making life difficult for aquatic animals, for aquatic life. Okay? Making life difficult for fish or anything which survives in the water. It also promotes overgrowing of algae, the plants, which is the plants that are found in the water. When these plants overgrow, meaning they will deplete oxygen that is supposed to be used by the aquatic animals. Okay? Therefore, reducing oxygen supply to the animals in the water or in our streams. Okay? So that is another effect of nitrogenous fertilizers. You can just say it causes eutrophication. So this situation happens when the nitrogenous fertilizers are washed away by rains. Okay? They run off into water bodies, causing pollution of the water and also harming aquatic life. They also cause harm to aquatic life. Okay? So that is another effect that you can give there. So you can also say it causes eutrophication when the nitrogenous so that is another effect that you can put there. What else can you think of, class? What else? What else can you think of? What is the other danger of using these types of fertilizers? Okay. So another one is it can cause contamination of underground water. So this happens when this type of fertilizer leaches into the water which is found in the underground, and that is where we obtain our drinking water. So when this type of fertilizer leaches into the water which is underground, meaning the water that we are going to be drawing underground will be contaminated. Okay? And so it causes diseases to the people that consumes it. Okay? So the people that consumes the water which is combined with this type of fertilizers, meaning they are likely to get a lot of diseases. Okay? That is another effect. So you can just say it causes contamination of underground water. Okay? So you can just say it causes contamination of underground water. When this type of fertilizer leaches into the water, then the water becomes contaminated. Thank you. Let's go to the last part of this question. So the last part of this question says, apart from nitrogen, so apart from this element that we have mentioned several here, name an element which is needed for root development. Apart from this element, which other element is needed for root development? Okay, so the element which is needed for root development is phosphorus. That is the element which is needed for root development. It is phosphorus. Apart from that, the element which is needed for seed formation, so this one is potassium. Potassium is an element which is needed for seed formation or seed development. Thank you very much. Please, can you always be with me on this channel so that we revise more, so that you are prepared for your examination. So here it is just to teach you people on how to answer examination questions. So thank you very much. See you next time. Thank you. Shalom, shalom, shalom.